Everybody, it's Punt Frugal Streamer, and I have some cameras I want to compare. I've been using the EMEET Pixy on my live stream now for a couple months, and if you've watched my verticals on YouTube, you've most likely seen it in action. But one of the things I have not done is done a comparison to, I think, its nearest rival, and that is the OBSBot Tiny 2 Lite. And the reason I did that is because I just didn't think it would be a fair comparison, because the software needed a little bit of maturity and there needed to be a couple firmware updates on the EMEET Pixy, because Tiny 2 Lite is obviously a lot more mature. Well, there has been a number of updates, including the most recent one I just updated this morning. So I think the Pixy and the Tiny 2 Lite from OBSBot, they are really close to each other when it comes to features. So I think it's now fair to compare them both. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to compare their video quality, their tracking quality, their built-in microphone quality, and the software that they come with. And you can decide for yourself which one you think is better. Now, I will let you know that right now I do have both cameras set up right here. This is the EMEET. This is the Tiny 2. And both of these are set up and they are in auto settings 4K 30. And I will do a fair comparison of both, as they are both set up in accordance with the manufacturer's and the software's design. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the comparison. All right, here is the EMEET Studio software. You have basically three different tabs here that you can use to control your camera. Obviously, the control tab is where you have the PTZ functions and tracking functions, and also you have privacy mode. You have your PTZ control of the camera here. You've got three different preset positions that you can set. You can also set an initial position. You have zoom functions if you're not using 4K 30, up to 2x digital zoom. And then you have, for your audio, for your microphone, you have original sound, which is, raw microphone, noise canceling mode, and then live mode, which are different versions of noise canceling and gain control. Now you have normal modes set down here. You can do different scenes if you want to do that. And you do have a preview, which you can set the camera here, and then you can see the actual preview of the camera itself and all the controls there. Now, the funny thing is here, although you can't zoom here, you do have the ability to do a 2x zoom here or a crop here. You do have your resolution settings here. You can also do 1440p at 30. You've got your 90 degrees rotation. You can also swap the camera, and then you can also refresh it. Now this is whiteboard mode, and this is something that if you have a whiteboard and you're doing training, this will actually detect the whiteboard and it will frame the camera based off the whiteboard and how you stand related to it. You also have desktop mode, where you can do a guide or review, and then you can see it's kind of weird looking, right? That is kind of strange looking, but you do have that ability. And then you also have record mode, where you can record to, to your hard drive, whatever you have set here. And up at the top right, you do have your scene settings, where you can go and save scenes up to 4. You can add, up to 4 devices. You have your output settings here for your recording. Obviously, I've set a media file location, the type of recording format, the recording bit rate, the output channel. You can do mono or stereo. You can record in vertical or landscape. You've got hotkey functions. You've got general, where you can do your language settings and check for any updates. And then you got links to related website for EMEET, for EMEET's, tutorials, their website, where you can look for software and client logs. So that's basically the EMEET software in a nutshell. It's pretty easy. Also here under assistance, this is where you got focus modes. You've got your auto privacy mode, where you can control whether or not you want that activated or not, and when you want it to activate. You've got gesture controls and auto rotate up and down. That's nice. So you can actually have this camera set upside down, say in a ceiling, and it'll automatically detect that and rotate it. Under effects, these are your image controls. You basically got different filter options, and then customize, where you can go and manually control brightness, contrast, exposure, and sharpness, saturation, tone, that sort of thing, and white balance. You can also, do the flipping here, horizontal, vertical, and you can add a anti-flicker mode. All right, so this is the OBSBot Center. This is what all of OBSBot cameras use when they're connected to a PC or Mac. Same kind of similar design, but there is some differences, and you'll see that the OBSBot Tiny 2 Lite has more functions than what the Pixy has. Under console, you do have your AI human tracking. Here you can control zone tracking. You can set zone tracking. You can set the area for zone tracking, and you just hit the check mark to have that activated. You have both standard and motion for the type of tracking. You have normal tracking, and then you can set standard or motion if you're doing a lot of motion, say really fast moving stuff. You do also have upper body, close up, headless, and lower body settings. Under AI mode here, you also have hand mode, which it will actually track your hand, which is pretty cool. And group mode, if you're having more than one person in your shot, it'll frame around the group. You also have 3 presets that you can set different positions that you can then, use a keybind, or you can use Stream Deck to then have these presets set by just pressing a button. It's really nice. You also have gimbal control here. You have coarse and fine. If you want to just fine tune, you can use your gimbal, your joystick here to control the camera. You do also have across the top hotkeys here. Also, by the way, you do have up to 4x zoom. And you have different frame modes, FOVs, wide, medium, and narrow, and then you have a full reset. Across the top here, you have hot buttons. This is your video preview. So here is where you can change your resolution settings of the camera. You do have landscape and portrait mode, and it also allows you to do software or hardware encoding, which is nice. You can set your record bitrate to high or low, and the record format. You can see the different formats it supports there, and obviously you can set the media file location. You got global hotkeys. You do have OSC control, so you can use OSC control if you want to do that. I personally do not have that set up and don't use it. And then here under general settings, again, is where you can do like global hotkeys. You have a remote control that comes separate with this that you can use. You do have media window capture, anyway, there's a bunch of software. You also have Pro mode and Lite mode that you can use with this. Most people probably won't be using that for this camera, but you do have that available. Obviously, if you have multiple cameras selected, you have these shown up here. Obviously, I've got 2 Tail 2s that I typically use that are showing up for cameras 2 and 3 that currently are not connected. But down here, you have record, you got your virtual camera, you've got snapshot, you can take pictures, you can open a folder. You also have beauty, filtering controls. That includes a fake blur or AI blur mode that uses the NVIDIA blurring. If you want to have that available, you can. It only works on the virtual camera though. But it does work, as you can see there. You can change the blur levels. Those are pretty cool, pretty nice to use. You also have audio controls. You do have mixing here up to a ton of sources that you can have, and you can do audio monitoring, a lot like the EMEET Pixy. But this might be a little bit more robust. You can also, just select a single source instead of audio mixing, and you can also do audio follows video, or you can do always open or always closed. You do have different controls, including HDR, focus, global, face focus, exposure, where you can go to manual exposure. You can do auto or manual white balance. You can do your image controls, okay? Under more, you have, device sleep, gesture control. Here you can set what type of gesture controls you want it to recognize. You can set up your audio for noise reduction or auto gain. You can disable the microphone. You can do the, distance for where you're going to be, and it will adjust gain based on that. Obviously, you got your mirror imaging here. And you can also view and reverse your gimbal. And again, that's nice if you're doing vertical or if you're flip the camera upside down. You can then flip the gimbal so that the controls will match. And then you can control indicator status. It's got a little tally light on it. And then you can do your check for firmware updates, manual upgrades. You can export your logs and restore factory settings. Pretty standard stuff. And at top here, you have your settings. Again, we've been into that before, but you do have Explore, which will send you to the OBSBot website. This is a test of the EMEET Pixy's built-in microphone in standard or original sound mode. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. This is in noise canceling mode. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. This is in live mode. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. This is a test of the Tiny 2's built-in microphone. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. This is a test of the OBSBot Tiny 2 noise reduction in weak. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. This is in medium mode. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. This is strong. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. This is a focus test of the Pixy versus the OBSBot Tiny 2. This next clip is a tracking mode test between both videos. We'll just see how well they track compared to each other. Again, they are in auto tracking in their standard tracking mode that you would set in the software. This is the EMEET. This is the Tiny 2. Okay, so what do you think about the EMEET Pixy versus the OBSBot Tiny 2 Lite? Personal opinion, they both have their pluses and minuses. I think the EMEET Pixy out of the box, I think the picture looks good. I think it's a little bit more overexposed than what the Tiny 2 is. I think the Tiny 2 does a good job at doing auto exposure out of the box. I do think, though, that the color is a little weird on the Tiny 2 Lite. It just kind of has this kind of magenta, kind of hue to it. Whereas I think that the EMEET does a little bit better job at handling, color balance in auto settings. Also think that the EMEET is just a tad bit sharper, which you may or may not like. That is kind of a personal opinion. I think for things like YouTube, I think a sharper image on a recording actually does a little bit better job for YouTube records. So when it recompresses, it doesn't look so bad. But generally speaking, I mean, that's kind of a personal preference. Personally, I kind of like the softer look of the Tiny 2 Lite. But tracking mode, they're both very close to each other. I can't really complain. I think where you see the difference is in two areas. I think it's in the focus and in the software. For focusing, I think the Pixy has an edge on focus, and there's two reasons for this. First of all, the Pixy has two lenses, and I have not discussed this yet. I figured I'd wait till now, but the Pixy has two lenses. One is dedicated to facial focus and facial exposure, whereas the Tiny 2 Lite only has one. They both use the same type focuses. They use the all-pixel autofocus, but the EMEET has a dedicated lens strictly for your face. So when you're doing close-in shot moves like this, I just think that the EMEET does a little bit better job. Also, you'll notice too, when you have an object that you're moving, back and forth, like I showed in that clip, the Tiny 2, it seems like it just, it won't focus until the object's where it needs to be, and then it'll surge in, where it appears that the EMEET Pixy, just kind of gradually tracks it and tries to maintain focus throughout. Now, it's not perfect, but I just think that, the Pixy just has a slight edge when it comes to that. Also, focus seeking is not as bad to me on the Pixy. But here's another big separation between the two cameras, and that is the software. While the software has gotten a lot better on the EMEET Pixy, I think that the Tiny 2 software, just because it's been around for a couple of years now, and it's just gotten a lot of maturity, and there's just a lot of functionality. Obviously, when the software came out, it was the original Tiny 2 that it came out with. Since then, they've had the Tail Air, the Tail 2, the Tiny 2 Lite, and the Tiny 2, I think SE, I believe. All these cameras has had, all this big run where the software has been updated, the firmware has been updated, and they've just added a bunch of features that, frankly, the Pixy just doesn't have because it hasn't been, out in the world as long. I think that the software could mature and be as good as the OBSBot center software, but as of right now, it's just not. And there's no comparison, to be honest with you. So a lot of the functions are there that the Tiny 2 has with the Pixy, but if you're looking for a lot more control, then obviously that will be something you'll have to determine when you're purchasing it. And the last thing is the price, and that's really what everybody wants to know about, is the price. Right now on Amazon, as of the recording of this video on August the 23rd, 2025, the OBSBot Tiny 2 Lite is on Amazon for $143. The EMEET Pixy is on sale for $158.99. So that's another deciding factor. Now you can see here some of the settings. Now they both have basically the same sensor, by the way. I just want you to know that. The Lite has a 1/2-inch sensor, which is slightly better than the 1/2.55, but they are both Sony CMOS sensors. They both have 3 microarrays. They're both 4K. They're really close to each other, but you're seeing about a $13 difference in price, right? $14 difference in price right here on Amazon. So that's a deciding factor too. You know, I think that the Tiny 2 Lite at $143 is pretty good freaking price. But EMEET Pixy also is that's $158 for what it is. It's also a good price. So you really need to just weigh your options on what you're looking for. Are you looking for a camera that's going to give you better autofocus? It's going to give you a sharper image, or are you looking for a softer image? You know, better options in the software. You know, that's just all these things that you need to weigh. Personally, I think they're both really good, and I don't think you can go wrong with either one of them, to be honest with you. But that's just me. Anyway, everybody, thank you for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit like, hit the bell for notifications. You'll know when I have a video that goes live. This is Pun, the Frugal Streamer. Have a great week. We'll see you later.